I don't know how many times I have to say this year, but this is my favorite type of album where a band comes out of nowhere and just completely knocks my socks off and makes me fall in love with music again. So, yeah, with that little bit of a preamble, let's dive into this one. Garden Electric by Juniper Fungus. So Juniper Fungus is a brand new band, progressive rock band from Greece, and they are pretty much the closest thing that I can think of like the classical big old P progressive rock band. They kind of have a little bit of the symphonic side of things, a little bit of the eclectic side of things, a little bit of the retro side of things, and blending them all together to make it sound like things that we've heard before, for sure, but in a brand new context, in a brand new and very exciting way. And immediately I was hooked. So we got two main individuals in this band. We have Aries and Fortis. I am not going to try to pronounce their last names. Aries on the keyboards and vocals, and Fortis on the flute. And it feels as if a lot of the passages on this album are a blending of the flute stylings, musical compositions that we would get from like an Ian Anderson and Jethro Tull, from about like Minstrels in the Gallery all the way to about Heavy Horses, paired with a experimental psychedelic rock that we would get from Pink Floyd, from about their Wish You Were Here to Animals. And if that doesn't wet your whistle, if that doesn't entice you to listen to this record, well, hold on, I got more to talk about. The structure of this album is one that I absolutely love. We've got 4 tracks. The shortest track is just under 10 minutes, and each one is around, 13 minutes, 11 minutes, and another 13 minutes. Perfect length for these kinds of tracks. It reminds me of Hybris from Anglegar, where it's just the 4 meaty tracks. Each one is dense and dripping with that prog power that, once again, I absolutely love. Goes from passage to passage to passage. It doesn't necessarily need that traditional chorus versus bridge kind of an aspect. It's all just banger after banger after banger of the different passages that we have around this. The album starts off with Underdog, that kind of solidifies the love that I have for this. That's rooted in this very funky bass lick that just kind of has this bounce to it. It starts the engine, it starts the rhythm of it. We come into this very psychedelic organ synthesizer sound that we would get from more of the psychedelic aspects that we would get from like Uriah Heep or Deep Purple. Some of those more like acid rock acts that we would get from the late 60s, early 70s, that once we get into the flute side of things, it then kicks everything back off with more of this rockin' tinge to it. And this is more like classic rock that we've kind of been neglecting within the past 2 decades, with flirting with, butt rock or grunge rock or these other things. We're kind of missing the soul of the original rock that we had from the 60s and 70s. On top of that, we have these dripping guitars that I absolutely love. Once we get into the midpoint of this, the harmonizations that they play with one another isn't quite like a Queen harmonizations within the guitar works, but it has that kind of essence. It has that kind of flow to it. But man, I'm loving the keyboards that we have at the end of this track. I'm trying to remember what this feels and sounds like. It's not quite Supertramp. It's not quite Edgar Wright, Edgar Winter. That's the one I'm looking for, not the director. It's kind of got that 70s flair to it. It's almost like we've unearthed this time capsule of like the 70s psychedelic, acid rock, progressive rock landscape. And now we get to finally enjoy it. And it ends off with a great flute lick that I think is a great flourish for this track. And Underdog opens up very well for this whole album. We come to the second track of Circles, and this continues what I love about this band. It's a little bit more joyful. It's a little bit more presentable. There's a lot more major keys found within this one that I really appreciate and, connect with. And in the midpoint, this is where I'm feeling more of like an aqualung flavor, especially within some of the smaller tracks off of that album. We've got the flutes that are coming in more of like this jovial minstrel that I feel like this band is commanding. But what this band does really well is their ability to construct a great build-up, because the second half of Circles is amazingly just like a big build-up. I love how they're able to create this really deep bottom, this foundation of this track that they're able to build upon to allow the song to really stretch and grow and develop. And I wish more bands were able to construct this, because every time I feel a build up coming, they either stop it too short or it builds to nothing. And this builds to a very satisfying crescendo and plateau that ends the first half of this album off. We come into the second half with Past Ground. That once again, the first half is a gradual build. It took the inertia and momentum from Circles and continues on with it with this very good and gradual build. When we get to the second half, that's where we're getting more of the psychedelic aspects that I heard from like Pink Floyd's Animals or a Wish You Were Here aspect, where they're playing with atmosphere and not allowing anything to quite solidify while they're still kind of wandering the landscape. And from this, we almost get like this Pied Piper that comes out from this mist. And I love the vocalizations and the lyrics that we have when that finally comes in. It feels very robotic. They're using some really fun, like vocal manipulations on there that I really appreciate. And it provides that groove. It provides that bounce that I really love. And the track ends with such a powerhouse. We have those electric guitars coming back in to provide a really great play out and just a rockin' touch at the end there. This brings us to the final track of Thoughts of Revenge, which again is much more rockin'. It doesn't take its time to build right up, right from the beginning. It blasts off. We have passages from once again, like a Pink Floyd, David Gilmour, Roger Waters groove with the flautists from a Jethro Tull aspect on there. But it's that midsection where it's just the atmosphere and the flute. It provides this heavenly atmosphere that I particularly attach to, like there's this deep breath feeling of this swirling music that I can't help but love. My only real criticisms comes with the final moments of this record, and it's that they end on a playoff and a fade out rather than something solidifying, rather than really putting a nice punctuation mark and ending the album in that way. It just ends on a fade out, and it leaves a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth, because we have a really great guitar lick. We have some really great, interesting guitar playing, and it just feels like they cut themselves off at the knees instead of allowing this to really take form and stand on its own two legs. But what are you going to do? That's my only real criticisms of this album. Other than that, this album is flawless. This is a project from a band that I am very excited about. Like, I can't wait to see where Juniper Fungus goes from here, knowing that this is their starting point. I am so excited to see where they go, and I'm really looking forward to their next album. So my final rating for this record will be Garden Electric by Juniper Fungus is an album I absolutely love with my whole heart. This is a very, very easy run, don't walk to go and listen to this one. I can't find it on my usual streaming services, so I had to buy it on the Bandcamp, but this was money well invested. If I can find it, I might just splurge and get the actual vinyl pressing of this record because of how much I love it. But yeah, this is a run, don't walk. This gets the note seal of approval. If you haven't listened to it already, please do, because this one might be a contender for, an album of the year. It's getting pretty high on that. We're going to see how I feel within about a month's time, but where I am right now, I've been absolutely loving it. And it's an absolute treat every time I come back to it. So yeah, that's my thought on Garden Electric from Juniper Fungus. What did you guys think about this record? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, please let me know by commenting down below. And I think that's where I'm going to leave you for today. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.